Imagine being a child who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stopped the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they might'st feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
In the United States, CPS makes up $3 billion a day on trafficking and selling children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
What's up, everybody? CPS Punisher. It is Tuesday night, and this is CPS Victims Hunting for Justice. Sorry about last night. I had a situation, so I had to leave the show. I apologize, and I want to thank Melissa and Everett Herbert and Josie for hanging in there without me. I'm sure they do just fine without me, but I wanted to thank them anyway. Also, don't forget, we have the chats right here. So we want you guys to initiate in that or be involved in that with us. You got questions, comments, or whatever, go ahead and put them up there, and we'll answer them the best we can. We got a full house here tonight, guys. Well, all of us are here, and we're all just going to powwow here till our guest arrives, which I believe is here right now. Like this our guest tonight. He's you got it tonight. We're going to be outside of the box here, thinking we're going to be out of the courtroom. We're not going to be talking about as much of the courtroom and defeating the system as we're going to be talking about beating the system itself. A lot of things stem around Title IV funding, and this is why we have the letter that we encourage you guys ask us about. Excuse me. That way, if you want to get a copy of that, go ahead and send an email to abolishcps.com@gmail.com, and I will get you a copy of that letter requesting everybody and their brother is to that can answer any questions or get any sort of investigation going on these people. We suggest that you send that letter to them. Also, well, the hell with also. Let's bring everybody out. Let's see. Enough about me. How about that? We'll bring out Melissa, we got Charles, and we got Herbert. How we doing, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Herbert. I keep missing your calls, Herbert. I'm sorry. I saw your call this afternoon.
I figured you're busy, Charles.
I've been very busy.
Yeah, I have a person I would like you to meet. He should be on. He should be on tonight with us. His name Professor Phillip.
You real
Yeah.
professor?
Yeah, Professor Phillip is he's also an attorney.
Where's your professor?
Yeah.
We call him Professor Phillip, but his name is Phillip, and he's an attorney.
Yeah, he's got some outside of the box thinking for us. You know, a way to talk about choking the system, and in different ways. You know, so um, enough about him. Melissa, what happened? Let's wait a minute though. Hold on before we do this. Melissa, what happened today? Want to tell everybody what they forgot to do?
Oh, they forgot to bring my kid to visit.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yep, they forgot to bring my kid to visit, but after all those nice long conversations I've had with the director, I think it seemed in the best interest of the department worker to figure out how to fix a fuck up. Because they left the department, they drove all the way out to wherever Junior was, they picked him up, they brought him back. I was there an hour and a half after the building closed, having my visit.
They have one job. They have one job. One job.
You know, the sad thing is, it's about the third or fourth time that they have forgot my kid, but it is the first time ever that they have went out of their way to go get the child, bring him back,
There it is, Herbert.
and hold the visit like they was supposed to.
Oh, at least they did it for you. I mean, most of these caseworkers wouldn't even go out and above like that. You know, like they won't do it. You know, nope, sorry, because if that was you that forgot something, you would be, you know, you'd be burned at the stake. They would make you out to be one of the worst parents possible. You wouldn't know, you know, you were just going to be a terrible person. But they forgot your child. That is their job to get to you, and no one will ever hear hiding their head about that.
Well, and the other thing I've been doing today is I've been working with Charles, and we've been working on trying to put just a little something together that maybe we can establish some new, very useful case law in the state of Alabama.
Nice. That's good. Do you feel that same way, Charles?
Oh, I love adventures in the unauthorized practice of law. It's what I live for, and yeah, I think that we actually could, because we are introducing some Supreme Court precedent into an issue that has never been heard in Alabama before. Okay. And I mean, Melissa, do you want to really say it before we talk about it?
Yeah, go ahead, put it out there.
Well, okay. When a judge has behaved in such a way that his bias appears overweening and his prejudice pervasive, there's this highly disfavored remedy called recusal. Now, I think we've talked about either on this podcast or maybe on others that recusal used to be very favored, and recusal used to be something that judges would do as a matter of honor very quickly. And starting about 1995, that all started changing, and recusal became highly disfavored and suppressed, and judges were instructed in their introductory judicial classes and their continuing legal education not to recuse themselves.
Right.
And so we've got to see this in that context. But even today, in the past 10 years, the U.S. Supreme Court has handed down some very strong opinions about recusal, and the concept that a detached and impartial magistrate is a key element of due process of law. Now, my perspective on that is that no one human being can ever really be completely objective and completely dispassionate, and that's why we should have much more powerful juries. But that's a little bit of a separate separate issue. What we're doing in Melissa's Alabama case, or what Melissa is doing, I should say, with a little bit of support from New Orleans, is we're going to ask a judge to recuse himself retroactively. Now, the United States Supreme Court has upheld that at least twice as a remedy. But of course, like as in everything else, when actual dollars are visible on spreadsheets, the law takes issues much more seriously. We may think that family is and love and relationships are more important than money, but that's not the reality that the law exists in. The law says that money comes first. In this case, we've got the opportunity to show a pattern of conduct by a judge that is so outrageous and so pervasive and so continuous that he really had no objective person could ever believe that he was capable of rendering an impartial verdict or decision in this case, at least with regard to our friend Melissa. He hates her. I don't know why he hates her, but it could be that there, as Melissa and I have discussed on other occasions, that there are some big financial issues involving child trafficking of certain types of children. Regardless, the Supreme Court case comes from 1986, or maybe it's 86 in the Fifth Circuit and 88 in the Supreme Court, but it's called Liljeburg. And basically, when a judge has a vested financial interest in a case that he has not disclosed everything that he has done in the case, even if the case is 2 years old, which of course is the case, everything has to be erased. And it's as if as a matter of law, it's as if the case never happened. Now, we're going to try to get the Alabama courts to adopt this in this case. And I think that Melissa's facts are sufficiently extraordinary that it's quite Melissa was saying that she thinks that California is more democratic than Alabama. I'm not sure. I look at the Alabama Supreme Court decisions, and I actually see a lot of sensitivity to individual rights and due process.
That's people with good education up there. We got to get down to the ground level, to these trial level appointed idiots who weren't good attorneys, and now they've made them even worse judges.
No, I mean, I think we've discussed lawyer jokes several times on this show, but one of my favorites is what do you call with a lawyer with an IQ of 90?
What?
You call him Your Honor.
Hey, just to add more insult to injury for the due process violation, I just found proof of service for the 5/11 hearing. I was served on 7/27.
7/27.
Yeah, 2 months after the 72-hour hearing, I was served 2 months later.
Oh, nice. Very good.
For the initial dependency one on Sarah, I was served 7 days after the hearing. Kind of interesting, right, Charles?
Yeah.
Well, that all being said, let's seeing how it's 2 months after the fact of 2 months before. Like
they just did that again. Just what?
Yeah, you just
2 weeks ago.
Right.
2 weeks ago when they served me the notice to go to court in March.
It's just they.
I think that you should be.
Or are they just stupid?
Melissa, you should be totally ashamed of yourself that you didn't just go back in time and appear. I mean, honestly. Yeah.
But you have like the letters, right? You have the letters postmarked for those dates. That way, they can't say that you were served them and you missed the dates, right? You can prove that the port.
I'll put it to you this way. I'm holding them in my hand right now.
It's proof of service. It was personal service. wasn't postmarked. It was personal service by sheriff's deputies, right?
Yeah, and shockingly, the petition for the emergency intervention of the department is actually signed by Hayden Glass Sizemore.
Oh, come on, really?
Hey, how are you? What's your name?
What's your name? All right. Oh, let's bring out the professor anyway. All right, guys, we'll bring him out there.
Yep.
Professor Phil, come out.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, Professor, are you here with Melissa and with Charles?
Hey, what's going on?
And now you know who I am. So this is our show where we talk about CPS and all things CPS, ways to find justice to bring these people some sort of goodness about what has happened in their lives. You know,
Right.
because everything's all bad that happens with this experience. There's no little good. There's no hiccups even that remotely give you a chance to feel like something's going to be positive, ever. So
Right.
maybe looking at things the way that you explain them, and the way that you are seeing that we might be able to manipulate these people to get their funds away from them, to us is a good idea.
Well, yeah, that's very true. I mean, we talked about taxation for representation. And at the end of the day, if I'm paying somebody, whether it's a lawyer, a politician, a judge, a public official, a friend, an associate, if the stipulations apply, then, hey, do your job. But at the end of the day, sometimes special interest is above all. And that's been the given principle of the way lawmakers allow all this discretion by the judges, companies, all kind of financial underwriting institutions, especially CPS, who ultimately acts as kind of like a nexus nonprofit to the city, county, and municipal. So they're directly a derivative of a market that sells children in that sense.
Right.
It's all about funding. There's no way you can tell them they give you $3.5 billion and you're gonna make sure you just like reunification. That's a subsection in one of their subcontracts that I found in Alabama. That I sent to brother I just slipped my mind, brother Heard, and kind of broke. It's a general breakdown as to how their habitual financial opportunities is solely based on someone else getting hurt. Even in the sense that they're trying to help in one sector, they say, okay, we're going to help these families that are more fortunate and more well off. The other ones, the rest of us at the end of the day, is just the bottom of the barrel and just another paycheck.
Right. I mean, basically, it's this: is if you could cut the money off to CPS, you could cut CPS off.
There you go. And at the end of the day, it's just like cutting the legs off a horse. The horse wouldn't be running with it if it doesn't have any legs, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, they got nowhere to go. They don't get the money. They don't get the funding. They don't get the funding. They don't get the kids.
Exactly. And I think that here's the main thing. Don't get me wrong. Welfare is a necessity when it comes to whether or not the blight of the community or a connection where there's a served opportunity for groups of people to do the right thing for a small and unfortunate group. And thus, yes, if we're talking about the idea of community service, then yes, we would say, yeah, I'll take on your children. You go to work. You get off the alcohol. You get off the pills. This was something we did in the 50s and 60s. Today, it's like, no, we're going to take the kids and you can drink and smoke as much as you want. Because at the end of the day, if it isn't based on consumerism, then we don't get paid.
Right.
So somewhere along the line, that money trail has to end. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily end in a bad way. It can go back to community service and people serve each other. But this is going to be a rather interesting, intricate way of being able to replace them because, well, they're the biggest issue when it comes to the economical foiling of children having a stable home in the first place.
Right.
Well,
Where do you feel that things? Where do you think the first stop is in stopping and choking this money out is?
it's always going to be corporatism, what the benefit is versus the negotiations. Which is the burden. It's going to be really the burden of the people, not the burden of the state. The state is going to get paid regardless. They're going to underwrite new debt. We're going to be foolish enough to pay the new tax, and then they're going to start all over. But the question is when do we become responsible when the government ultimately is irresponsible? In other words, Where do we get the unrefutable evidence that since they want to finance something that isn't beneficial for us, how do we retain those rights and benefits in the first place to discontinue this type of services? Well, there's going to be a lot of people that need it. Let's just be honest. There's a lot of dependents. But in order to kind of obscure that line, the vision between taking the money and creating programs that justify the end, or let's just say for the most part, pushing CPS to the side as a non-advocate group would be more, more suitable if the right type of people are ultimately at the end of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I found incompetent accountants, and they do the right thing by their clients, but that's just business as usual. But at the same time, you have people that have all the know-how and they know exactly what their job is, but the opportunity of a few extra dollars and a few children missing, that just, yeah, man, that tickles the judge's fancy. It makes a hell of a lot of sense when you're talking about, local economics. And then, of course, the supply of new children where demand for money is necessary. Well, you get a new sector. It's kind of like housing. When the housing, when they said the housing wasn't exactly, how you want to spin it? When the housing was really a big thing, a real hot commodity, most people were looking for housing. And when did the ingredient of the spike happen? When the economics found more money to build and develop infrastructure where jobs and opportunities can be, can make itself available. This is what making purchasing homes more, more stable with a non-volatile market. This market is no longer aggressive, but it will give you opportunity and a chance to change your life. These people moved in these nice neighborhoods. They were able to improve their economical and local lifestyle. And yet at the same time, the interest rate was pretty stable. Taxes was all right, And then you got to ask yourself, where did we go wrong? I'm not sure if Darren kind of jumped off there. But I see you still there, Charles. Yeah, I don't know. You might have jumped off, right? You heard me? Could you hear me?
Were you talking to me?
Yeah. I think he jumped off. I'm not sure if he jumped off.
What? Do you have a question for me? I'm sorry. I
was saying.
What he's saying is he thinks Darren dropped signal.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I wasn't too sure. I was just letting you know.
I'm typing
in
the California case while we're working.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Darren's been having internet issues for the last couple days.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my I guess you could say, at the end of the day,
ever since the internet was founded.
Right. I'm saying that at the end of the day, there is the state and some of these agencies are necessities, but somewhere along the line, no matter how much the demand is, people have to find that there is a mechanism and a financial economical decorum to kind of do something collectively without having to necessarily need the state to do it. If your community is able to take care of the people there, you should, even if you need money out of necessity, there is ultimately some type of benefit that will ensure the development and the economical benefit of the collective. And I've even seen it in 4 different counties where they created their own currency. And it was interesting because the government said, hey, this doesn't sound so bad. You don't have much of an issue with that. I think one of them was Albany, I believe. Relatively small town, and they were just dishing out credits in essence with this new currency because they want to see if they could do something on their own without necessarily asking the government for assistance. So, programs, they pop up just like, if you look at any other group of people that started the program, I hate to say that one of the seasoned ones, Black Panthers came up with the free food program. What happened? They came out with EBT. It's a program that replaced the program that unfortunately had the spoils of war and violence. But the principle was, we're going to do right by the collective because at the end of the day, if we can't stabilize local or marketable prices, we're going to have to give things to people on the basis of how the program will operate. Some things are going to come at the cost of the taxpayer. Other things are going to be coming at the benefit of the creditors that we naturally want money from. Our employees, employers, tax receipts, our deductions, credit from the government, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, there is ultimately kind of a trail of tears when it comes to ending CPS. But there's also somewhere along the line where you have to replace it. It has to be something to replace this thing. You can't just. It's not that it has to wither and die. It just has to be something where community or some type of mechanism is in place so it doesn't happen again. So you don't have these people that see it's a benefit to snatch kids, and that imprisoning people because the welfare of the state is failing because the people can't keep up with the debt rations. That's what I call it today. What you work for is debt rations. You're not really working for a real asset because none of that money you're gonna have. Nobody's really gonna save their income. Not the way this is going. No.
Wow. Yeah.
So with all the things that they're talking about possibly shutting down the incentive side of Title IV, does that offer any benefit to the family?
That's the interesting part. One, yes, but at the same time, no, because policymakers have just come up with a new financial threshold so they can raise the debt ceiling and continue to play the monopoly game. It's almost like they're teasing us. Oh, there's an intimate collapse. Oh my God, new tax bracket. Oh, no worries. Bang, new jobs opportunities. Voila, fix the capitalistic loop by adding a new tax bracket. Voila. Next thing you know, the state has turned around and honored all these foreign investors to come in, and it's happened because where I'm at right now is the Greyhound. Greyhound was purchased by China Bus. China Bus winded up a Greyhound bought FlexBus. Now they're an actual what do you call it? I forget the name of it. A monopoly of sorts. And yet, U.S. government said you can't own more than 20% of the fleet. But China just came and just bought them up. Like,
They just bought everything, right?
Right, exactly. It's nothing. And I was like, wait, what? But you said.
I've heard there's a couple of states that are actually starting to evict the corporate China out of their states, trying to take back all the land that's been bought up by the Chinese.
China. Can you guys hear me?
And where that's happening, by the way, the federal courts are protecting the Chinese. That is.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, in a way, I kind of agree because they did pay for the land. They did by all means pay for the land. Therefore, if they're being forced to sell out, they should be getting a sellout type price, not just getting their land stolen. I mean, how would you like tomorrow, Charles, if someone else starts moving into your place and says, oh, by the way, I took it out from under you? That's kind of a kick in the teeth.
Well, that's exactly what the federal courts are saying. They're saying that these state laws constitute unconstitutional takings. So that's going on all over, not all over the country, but in some states that are trying to expropriate Chinese property. I mean that's. I mean I think that ultimately that's going to be a political.
But do you see exactly why they're? And if you notice, if they're doing such a thing, don't you notice that by them buying up companies, that's exactly their way back to the land? That is exactly the point of being able to turn around and say, "Oh, okay, you can cut us off from the purchase of surplus, but the demand you can't cut us off from." So all they're doing is just backdooring new deals, and then they're going to cultivate it into a kind of like an economical boom. Look, we bought all this up. We're going to give huge tax credits, and we're going to give ridiculous tax rebates to all these other companies that want to do business with us. That's exactly what they're going to do. It's going to backdoor a new deal, and the policies are going to have to change, which ultimately means the states are going to make another silly decision because then you're cutting off foreign aid, which is exactly what they're going to take as a form of
Professor
aggression.
Phil.
Yes,
Hey, Professor Phil, I don't mean to cut you off here. Could you just do me a huge favor? I think we're getting a feedback from you. Could you back out and come back in? Would you mind?
Yeah,
So
sure.
I think we're getting the feedback from you. Yeah, come back out and then come back in because it's going away from what you're saying. All right, cool. Did you hear that? Am I the only one that was hearing that? Oop, 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 oop.
Yeah. That better?
Right.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah, now you're back. Now we got it going. All right, cool.
Yeah, no,
All
I
right,
was saying that. No, I was saying that, and I'm sorry for that, cutting you off there. I was saying that they're just simply going to find a back door. They're going to pass policy, which will further squeeze them economically for their domestic resources. And then China's going to do exactly what China does. Hey, you guys are suppressing free enterprise. That's the principle of this. And this isn't an economic, this isn't a negotiation on economics. This is a forced form of economics to make it seem and appear to be hostile when in reality it's, hey, we believe in free enterprise. And then when they loosen up those regulations, taxes will go through the roof. They know exactly what they're doing.
Right.
They know exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're by no means stupid. These guys are pretty good. They're good.
Now, what are these
really
kids?
good.
What are these kids worth to them?
If you look at if I'm looking at the economical scales, within what I would call a financial pyramid, I say at least about 1,300 per child, and that's minus all their main deductions, which is food, shelter, clothes, all that good stuff. And
That's a month.
That's per capita. Yes, that's per month.
Right.
But I think it's it expands solely based on the program. So they can go up to $12,000 to $14,000, $15,000.
Right. A month.
It can get really steep, depending on the state, depending on the surplus, and depending on the demand. It all depends on the market. It's all market. That's all it is.
Wow. So that's just crazy. That
Yep.
I mean, we all know that they get money. You know, like they say about one child is worth about $1.5 million to $3 million by the time they're said and done and have been adopted.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But where we all know that money is not going to where it's supposed to be going. We know that there's so much fraudulent money in there. How do we break this down? How do we find out where this fraudulent money is?
Well, that's the interesting part. Every CPS, including and a lot of times, like I found in Ohio, police, CPS, DHS, and two other companies, including the city of Toledo, is in an actual contract, basically soliciting the bid of how much they would charge per child once entered into the system. Like it's so disgusting, it's hard to read it.
Mm.
You know, it's really nasty. And I mean, the even the police chief, when he went public with it, after he removed himself from office, he was like, you know, I think we're a little, you know, we're getting a little sketchy around, you know, kind of feel like I'm orphaning children that are just going to the system, and there's really no benefit in sight. There's really just this system and programs that work, but they're not operational to, you know, to be the
norm.
The factor of being a mother and father, and being the real recipients of growing these children, as opposed to just putting them in the system and hope that they'll grow off of the systems, off the what do they call it, the government fatback. You know, we put all the money into and resources into these kids, and then hopefully they'll develop into something. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's just insanity. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like they're creating a from baby mold of what they need to be for the rest of your life. You know?
Exactly. So if you're putting, and a lot of the Toledo places are dorm style locations. There's like 15 kids in one big room. It's crazy. It really is. And these are all contractors, by the way. These foster homes are contractors. The people that essentially adopt the children usually are, by design, leasees, in essence, to any arbitrary negotiator with the naked eye when you're really looking at the contracts. Yeah. They're definitely contractors. There's no question about that. But
right, because they're 1099, or are they 1099, or are these foster
all of them are
parents?
1099. Yes, sir, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are employed by the state, in essence.
All right. So then it behooves them to move these families to foster care, opposed to keep them in regular family
exactly
family environment, because they're not using these money for the resources anyway. They're using it to foster the kids, so they're making all their money on that side. They don't make any money in reunification.
Exactly. Well, here's the funny part. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars in reunification money, but only a third of it's used in the cases that they believe that the reunification of the reunification would be not only possible, but would be appropriate. Yeah, I know. I get it. So the idea, reunification. I don't know why the brain is continuously putting a D instead of an R. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, but
But
they
yeah,
have
so
all the funding to do all this stuff, but they don't.
mhm,
They don't because if there's no real benefit to it, why do we do it? Why should we do it?
right. And then yeah, that's it. That's
That's the question. That's the question.
so
And
where
you know, it's funny. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. You're the guest here. They don't want to hear me, they want to hear you.
Now, and you know what's funny about all of that? Just the fact that you're talking about you got money for reunification. Why aren't you paying the mother and father to do exactly what a co-parenting on child support or a CPS subcontractor, such an adoptee? Why would you turn around and tell me you have the funding for those mechanisms, but you don't have the funding to ensure that I'm able to do exactly what the state said and claimed I should be doing with my child?
Yep.
I mean,
That's the question right there. That's the
yeah,
question. Why is someone else getting paid to train to raise your kid, but you can't be trained to do it, or you can't be trained
exactly.
to fix it or use it? But here's the thing: Title IV says all that in it. It's all
Yep.
in there saying that if they,
Surely
so
does.
they're still collecting this Title IV money, even though they're
Hmm.
not doing what the funding says that it's supposed to be appropriated.
That's right. That is correct.
So that's fraud. Now, how do we start pinning this fraud on them?
Well, here's the interesting part about any form of fraud. It's not necessarily about taking the guesswork out. Oh, we know you're doing this. We know you're doing that. We see the law. It's snatching their contracts and rededicating the finance to where it should be going. So if the mother loses the war in the course, then she should be looking at it financially to improve the odds of winning. Now, let me explain that. Give me 1 second here. Well,
Yeah.
just okay. So if a mother, this doesn't look good. Hold on a minute. Give me a second. Excuse me. So, oh boy. Yeah, but for some reason, just a minute ago. I'm sorry. Give me a second, guys. What's going on? That's
What are
weird.
your thoughts so far, Charles? While we're waiting for, are you following this? What we're doing? What we're talking about here?
Well, you're talking about why aren't they supporting parents uh, fosters and the CPS, and I think that's a very, very, very interesting question. Except I believe I know the answer, and I apologize for sounding like a broken record. It's because they want to destroy the family. They want
Of
to make
course.
people dependent on the government instead of self-reliant and on themselves. If they were giving money directly to parents, that would foster that would foster independence, and
Right.
it would seem like people matter. I mean, in the 19th century, there was something called the Homestead Program, and the Homestead Program basically granted 160 acres for free to anyone willing to farm it. That's basically how the West was settled. It was through homestead grants, and it was only free. It was only welfare in the sense that that you could get it for free, but you could only keep it if you worked it. And we need programs like that that build up families. Think of what that did. That built up the American farm system. It built the American family. It created the amazing country that the United States became in the late 19th, early 20th century, because it was this nation of yeomen, self-supporting yeomen, who didn't need anybody. That's the kind of welfare that we need today. We need something that fosters individual independence and families working together. The family farm was such a great thing for families, and of course, the Industrial Revolution has sort of undercut the benefit of that, and that's a totally separate issue. I think that I feel like we've discussed that on this podcast before. That the same amount of money given to parents would obviate 99% of the problems. I mean, okay, there's some really bad people out there who do abuse children. I think we've all admit that. There are some people out there who really should not be parents. Uh, you know, fathers who rape their little 3-year-old girls and things like that. There are a few, but they are 1 in a million. They are not the norm. We don't need a whole government agency in every state to deal with people who behave in a horribly destructive and criminal way. We have sheriffs and police to deal with that.
Wow. Yep. And then it's just administering those jobs to be doing what they're supposed to do. That's the other part.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Darren.
So that's where we have to administer these jobs and make sure that they're being done properly. Like you're talking about putting up that lineup, but now who do we go to make sure that this is done properly?
Okay, I'm
So
back, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so who determines where and what and how do you get this out there so that these guys will look at it?
Well, I got an answer for that. You got a charge, you're going to run something. Charles?
Sorry, what?
I thought you were going to respond. I said, you want me to answer this one?
Okay, what was the question again? I'm sorry. I thought they had switched to you. I apologize.
That's okay. I can answer it real quick.
Yeah, Prof, go for it. You can do it, Prof.
Okay, so the main principle to me as far as family structure is how the revolution, the industry of revolutionizing the way American and the institution of the world was created, which is corporatism. Corporatism was to separate everything: liability, famine, responsibility, economical growth, all the positive and negatives when it came to exactly how the government used and was intended on becoming what you call the economical arm of the world. So one has to say, how exactly did they do that? Because CPS is a company. The county's a company. The state is even a company. I got all their tax ID numbers. What are they doing that I'm not doing? What they're doing is they've groomed us, and just like Eisenhower, who was that talked about work was good, and the authenticity of work was a non-educational factor. Yet he was the one that put up the factories of education. Ford. Okay.
Yeah.
The main principle of education should be the cornerstone of how you are able to develop a sense of community, economical development, and the individual, including the collective achievement. So the real achievement of being able to, I guess you could say, separate ourselves from the state, the institutions, the companies, the corporations, and anybody that facilitates the means of turning us into monopoly pieces is to become monopoly pieces. Why run away from the same thing that you're fighting on the idea that it's going to change, when if you change it by becoming a part of its molecular structure, it's like becoming a part of its physical membrane. You become a company, you put your child in your company, and then you solicit the same funds and benefits that the entities such as the CPS and all these other units of government, these nonprofits, by the way, okay, if they're operating on the same line of being the liaison of your child, why aren't you the liaison of your child? Why aren't you if you were to adopt your child and then turn around and tell the government to spend the money on you instead of the welfare recipient that was solidifying those funds on the basis of being an adoptee? Why can't you be the things that statutorily are recommended to underwrite the main principle of funding and keeping those funds away from the same institutions that would incorporate and indoctrinate you into believing they were necessities of you and for our sake? Why do we continue to grant these powers when the powers that we know it's all incorporated? It's ingrained in corporatism.
Right.
And if it came from the industrial complex, and now it comes down to the very fabric of how institutions operate and how we function, where our functionality should reflect those particular values. So corporatism should be your next step. That's again, not only evading the tactic, but you're also shooting simultaneously, because you're telling them it's a benefit to ensure that my child is not only taken care of, and the welfare of the receipts are rendered as moot to other third parties that think that they need to have a job in order to take care of my child, but I'm in fact the applicant for the job. Yeah, we're talking about jobs and opportunities, evading the same institution that institutionalized our flagrant attempt to try to separate ourselves by trying to negotiate, and then forcing them to agree by some decree or some silly, lousy, flimsy paper from a judge that judicially oversaw your one particular case, when hundreds of thousands are treated exactly the opposite. Millions of people are on the opposing end of being able to benefit from the system that intended on justifying its own ends by allowing you to fail to become the very representative that they became on your behalf. And what I'm saying is, let's just say every leader in the community is collectively leaders. Do you need a leader? I don't think so. I'm not saying everybody's going to be a leader. I'm saying that at the end of the day, if you become and think and act like leaders, you will no longer need one. And unfortunately, they've dismantled that entire psychological conundrum by putting us through, let's just say they took our brains and they put it through a meat grinder. And they've been grinding away since what, 1910? Since the Bank Secrecy Act? This is all a nice little inside coup, and we fell for it. And now we're asking ourselves, how can we do something that will change this molecular structure? Smiling children and smiling faces on TV doesn't seem real. So where's this real authenticity went? It's gone to the wayside of the industry in which it's incorporated to do business, harm you, and benefit for the basis of a job, an opportunity. The lackluster of seeing your blood on the street because some cop decided he desired to do exactly what the state think he should do. You know, it's all procedure. Who cares what they say? Shoot first, ask questions later. This is business as usual. This is what we're looking at.
I mean, it's nuts. No,
Absolutely.
how is this? This goes? This whole module, this whole plan, this whole everything goes throughout the government, right? This isn't just specific
Absolutely.
to CPS.
Yes, it goes through the entire government body. As a matter of fact, as soon as they broke up the not just the Black Panthers, but they unified the principle of the Civil Rights Act, they took that as the portion of legislation to ultimately allow corporations to have the opportunity to become 14th Amendment citizens. And this is something we argued in the Supreme Court. Was like, wait, what? When did they become citizens? You're telling me you've been giving them this money this entire time? Yeah, the people don't want it. Why should we give it to you if you're not smart enough to see what this means? It's defined as a company, a corporation, an individual. But these are still definitions that can be redefined solely based on the purposing of funding, resources, development, education. I mean, they took all of that and just simply twisted it behind a corporate veil. They've been doing it for decades. I mean, you're just not kind of just really seeing it at this point.
Right.
It's impossible. You fail to ignore the fact that if I step in Louisiana, I'm stepping into a corporate territory. If I go to California, same thing. Go to Nevada, same thing. Illinois, same thing.
Did I hear you say you're from Louisiana?
No, I didn't say I was from hell no. What
did you say?
I said if I step in the territory of Louisiana, am I not on corporate land? Yes, I am. If I go to another city, a county, a municipal, they all have W-9s. They're all companies. Their veil, their corporate veil, is not indestructible. It's just something that people do not seek to negotiate under. We all think by negotiating with the government that doing the basics of what they're asking for, the two-step of judicial practice, you know, he ordered me to do this, 1 2-step, ordered me to do that, 1 2-step. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's more military than anything else, because the complex follows the same basic intellectual decorum, but the principle of it all is the fact that you're doing something for a company that veils itself to attempt to tell you that you can't do anything without the company. And once the county and the city and the municipal convinces you of this, you become an economical and a corporate slave. The enormity of it is just impossible to comprehend. I'm not gonna sit in line. Like, it took me years to really get this. For real, it took me years.
So everybody's on this kick right now to defund Title IV. Like, that's what we're on. That's what it sounds like you're trying to gear at. But your approach is different than ours. Like, we're trying to say investigate it. You're saying let's infiltrate
redistribute.
it.
Redistribute. Yeah.
Now, how is that to be done?
It's nothing but you're a contract away from having your children and funding from the same institution that stole them.
Right.
You got to replace the institution. You have to become the institution. Just like I said, you have to become the thing that you're trying to replace. You can't just say, go away, I don't want to do business with you anymore. Sure, you can do that at Walmart. You can do it at county, city, and even municipal affairs. But as soon as you go into a courtroom, as soon as you jump into something, some political entities, chambers. As soon as you start wanting to negotiate with politicians, you are going down the corporate path, my friend. And unless you have the fund under your control and your entity is safe from their radical, tyrannical policies and pimped out solicitations, well, you already know what time it is.
Right.
I mean, it's just as simple as that. And they have, in essence, we the people, they have asked us to incorporate, and by the time 1933 they bankrupted the country and turned the states, counties, municipal cities, and every other corporate deity into an institution. We the people became the company.
Right.
I mean, if we don't look at just the basic synopsis of this basic, ordinary movies we watch, the company, the empire. Talk about the corporate infrastructure. We are just so stuck on the entertainment. We don't know who they're truly talking about. They're talking about their masters and their overlords. They know exactly what they're talking about.
Right, but once you start playing with these things, it's very easy to start seeing this stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, as soon as I went to court and told the county that I wasn't doing business with them, they banned me. But even though it's a longer story to it, the principle is that I didn't have to do business with the court, I didn't have to do business with the county, and they in turn said they didn't have to do business with me, and then essentially banned me. Even though the context of it was just I quote unquote threatened somebody in the county. That's not what happened. But their main principle was to eliminate me, and to do so, they had to eliminate the prospect of being able to negotiate with me. So this way, if I can't negotiate with them, then I can't go in and break up the monopoly, which is exactly what I was attempting to do. I land myself in jail for doing so. Yeah, me and Mr. Herb had a nice little discussion about that. He's like, but it doesn't say that they kicked you out of the county. He's like, they said it. They didn't just put the words there that said you're banned, for the next 5 years. No, they don't have to say that. They can, behind closed doors, when I'm trying to make a deal, they can say, oh no, but we don't have to do business with you. But oh no, we don't have to service you.
Right.
But oh no, you can't buy a house. Like, wait, hold on. So you're telling me that even if I come in here, no, we don't have to. Because just like Walmart, they got the same type of policy. If they don't want to do business with you, just like any form of elimination, you can tell somebody, or just like Walmart would say on their walls, they'll say, hey, we have the right to not do any business with you. We don't have to. Our policies allow us to do that, even though legally, we don't have a particular reason. Just simply don't want to do business with you. And that was their way of doing it. They put it into an ordinance and into a court order. Yeah, they went a long way to do that. And then the crazy part is they only used it once. So I know they passed it for me. I was a designated target. I get it. I mean, I did some things. I ruffled some feathers, but the principle was, I'm going to eliminate you guys because you're causing me problems. You're causing my client problems. And I ultimately want to turn this into another institution so we can separate from the very institution the fabric of the existence of this poverty you've created. And if you're not going to support that, please move out of our county. And they were like, oh, yeah, no, it's time to go, buddy. So, start messing with the development.
Where is the beginning step for someone that's looking to think outside the box here? What's the first move someone needs to make?
First rule is to find out what your corporation is doing. Look at its budgets, its financial criteria. How do you incorporate its budget into your budget? The question is, how do you take on the life of an institution that looks exactly like you, walks like you, thinks like you, feels like you? Ordinary people that come in and say, oh, you gotta take your children, and it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. We're so sorry. You're just a beautiful customer, but we have to hurt you because it's just business as usual. Then you have to look at them the same way they look at you. How do you turn your child into a documented dollar? How do you force them to negotiate your terms and conditions and not the other way around? That's the first thing I tell everyone. That's what I tell everyone.
And how long would a process like this take to do everything that you're talking about, to get that money back, get money back from this and be the creditor?
I mean, at the end of the day, uh, CPS put in like 3 applications and a grant. They just wrote a grant, put in
Right.
3 applications, and became a nonprofit institution stealing kids. They did that in less than 2 months. Not Alaska, in California. When I was down there in where was that exactly? When they opened a new office out of San Bernardino, not San Bernardino. This office was out of San Francisco. They opened a new office. It took them less than a month. They had cases on their docket before they could sneeze. That's how the money rolls in. They're not playing around. It's just a nonprofit. That's all it is. And they're associated with the downtown institution. So they said, yeah, we'll co-sign it, signed off on it. They put in literally 3 documents. Their nonprofit, their actual status to take in more than $10,000 in grant money before having a report. They didn't even have the status of the nonprofit yet, and they were taking in money. It's how fast this shit. It moves so fast. It's hard to keep up with.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's absolutely bananas.
Oh,
And the funding is a bonanza, because if you start looking at how many resources they have on every single application, you wouldn't even believe they had that kind of money. You just couldn't fathom how much in grants they asked for. And I'm talking about like little small miscellaneous cities. I went to Biloxi. Biloxi had a
right.
$6 million budget. I'm like, wait, what do you need that for? You only got like 3,000 kids, and not even a quarter of those is under under a court order, and only about 10% is in childcare. Where are you getting all this money from? What do you need that money for? Because it's
Right.
all about expansion. That's all it is. It's expansion. They're waiting for the expansion. Neutralize the community by disenfranchising of its economical prowess, just basic things like jobs and opportunities. Next thing you know, these kids are going up for sale like hotcakes.
Yep. They're
Get
using
drugs
it
in the
to balance.
community. Yeah, get drugs in the community. Next thing you know, your child care cases go up by 60%. These guys are not, they're playing by numbers. They're playing by the numbers. This ain't just a disenfranchising tactic. This is
Right.
economics.
Right.
This is what this whole thing is. And if you think the judge is getting a check off of that, you're out of your mind. You better believe he's getting a piece. If the county's in on
Of
it,
course.
he's getting a piece. Period.
Everybody,
That's
right
what.
down the whole totem pole takes it. Every one of them.
Exactly. Exactly. So even general audits can get them caught up. I'm telling you that these people are just, they're so out in the open with it. I wouldn't be surprised if a judge literally was pocketing expenditures at the cost of what CPS was collecting. I would not doubt that. I wouldn't doubt they're in absolute collusion. They're sitting right in bed, just wetting each other's side of the bed and swearing up and down it was one or the other. And they're just giggling and laughing and having fun like 2-year-olds, jumping in the piss and then telling the taxpayer to clean it up. I don't doubt that. I absolutely don't doubt that.
It really is so sad.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
nasty stuff.
because money is driving everybody and everything right now, and it's
Exactly.
we're losing sight of what the most important thing is, and
Yep.
that's us. Like, it's us. We are our children's God. We are our children's creator, and these dollar amounts are making it totally fine for a person without a badge on, without any training, to come into our life and take our kids, and we stand back and go, "Huh?"
Yep. Yep.
Like it's just, and these people have an open checkbook. They can do whatever they want. They can say it's however much it wants, and they
And
get
the
away.
only thing they did was write a grant. See, that's what makes them dangerous. They didn't do nothing that made this complicated. They wrote a grant. That's all
Right.
they signed a grant, gave it to their comptroller or their treasurer, and sent it through whatever process they needed to in order to become a part of the industry. And they just have a nonprofit status. The government didn't give them official authority. They just simply signed a contract saying, yes, we're going to make the balance of this budget an urgent matter based on childcare.
Yep.
An urgent matter could be snatched as many as 60 children per week. That's a quota. That's nothing
Yeah.
short of
Fact.
what cops do.
Yep.
It's nothing short.
That's a fact. That is absolute a fact.
So if you're going to break up the family, the economics, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And then they're turning the moms and the welfare queens, which ultimately eliminates the man. If you eliminate the man, what do you think is going to happen after the man is gone? Now we're talking eugenics, which is a whole different. I mean, that's just a holocaust of words no one wants to use right now. But that's a potential possibility because there's a lot of women running for office. This shit is getting scary. It's getting scary out here. Say
Can
it
you
again.
elaborate on what you think the eugenic consequences are? Because this is
Say it
something
again.
Cliff and I have been talking about too.
Say it again.
Can you comment on what you think the eugenic consequences of this may be? Because this is something Melissa and I have been talking to
Just
about
like
the price of children.
right, right. Okay. Well, I think it's just like any other pressure cooker. How much do you need in order to create eugenics within itself, where people begin to operate on the threshold of eugenics without knowing that they're doing it? You reduce the probability, like propaganda, of people procreating because the benefit of society is on the crest of being more dependent on the institute than on the people and the self-indulgence of the collective. Long as we're separated by class, ideology, sociology, finance, and any type of economically proof sound agenda that will separate us on whatever threshold they need in order to keep us from reproducing, that in and of itself is eugenics. You don't have to force people to stop having sex. You just simply give them something that doesn't ensure a benefit, and then you turn the welfare queen onto the male as a predominant configuration of the new social germ. And next thing, men don't want to reproduce with anybody that thinks they're a man. Who wants that?
Right?
I don't. Nobody on this panel should. But the
No.
principle is that if you have that type of activity and then an ongoing tobacco within the communities themselves being paid to host these ideologies, then what do you think is going to happen? It's an invention. It's an invention within itself. Pay a stay-at-home mom enough money to stay at home. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to have lots of stay-at-home moms. Come on.
Right.
What's the benefit?
Yep.
But are you
Stop.
saying that the eugenic consequences that you're talking about are basically behavioral and
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Yes.
psychological, social
Absolutely.
activity?
Yep. That would be correct. And then the downtrodden principle, though, is the economical collapse of men as a necessity and women as the essential principle of reproduction. I mean, they brought in every possibility to change your sexual behavior. What makes you think the government didn't co-sign that if they're saying, okay, well, you can be a woman in prison? Excuse me? When did that happen? Who passed that policy? Oh, you can be a man when you're in prison. Wait, hold on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. When did we pass that? Is that in the law? Is that an ordinance? So when you're endorsing these reconfigurations of manhood and womanhood, what are you separating at the same time? The adjudicated effort of benefiting from the system. And if you can't benefit from it, you have to create grassroots behavior that consolidates the behavior into a beneficial necessity among those in the community. If I intend on surviving this next 20 years with some type of retirement based on the fact that I can become something that I'm not, well, that will, as they say, fake it till you make it. That's an economical fact.
Right.
You got plenty of people to do it.
Yep.
Kanye West did it. He's a billionaire. Look what he ended up with. I mean, he's walking around with somebody that doesn't even have a face. We're in troubled times, my friend. We're in troubled times.
Yeah. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Some nasty stuff, man. And again, he was a part of an agenda, as was anyone else that endorsed the principle of using them as part of the practice. Just like practicing law, you're not practicing law to prevent it from being used in the most perfected sense. Because by perfecting it, you're not a necessity anymore. If somebody
Right.
perfects the law, what would you need somebody out of the necessity of practicing it? As they say, practice makes perfect. If you perfected it, what do you need lawmakers for? Because then you know that the collective can think in a collaborative sense. You do that, you don't need government. As I told Herb, which he took this word to heart, he really got upset about it. As I said, it's a susu. It can be a binary construct in which we use acoustics in a way where our thought patterns are consolidated as one. This is a basic symbiosis, and we don't seem to have that pattern anymore. Even when race relations was harsh during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, there was still some stability within those safeguards of an ideology that collectively safeguarded us from the symbiosis of a market where government could crash us while we indulge in our extracurricular activity, but yet we're still stable, even if government itself decided, oh, we have less money. Yeah, okay, well, we got John Dillinger. Oh, we got policymakers that are really not pushing in that particular direction. Oh yeah, we got stick up kids for that. There's
Right.
always something that we had
There's
to
always a
economically.
fallback, right?
Say it again.
So there'll always be a fallback or a fall guy or
Exactly.
something. Right.
Right, but remember, the folk tale of that was to ensure that we understood that if government didn't do for us, somebody would.
Right. Robin Hood
That was the
principle.
principle. That was the principle. Of course, the government took that and said, "We'll lash out at the citizens by making him the villain instead of the." And then, of course, we praised them. We Dillinger, these guys over there and those guys over there. And then, of course, you had the G-man. Now, what was the G-man supposed to do? Replace the gangster. These G-men are FBI agents, CIA agents.
Right.
These guys are spooks. You never see them. They come out of nowhere, kill you out of nowhere, hit you with a stun
Yep.
ray, and you defibrillate.
Black helicopter comes through. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Fibrillate your heart. You were just sitting there minding your business, living a very cultured,
Yep.
laid back life, but you were telling people the truth. Next thing you know, they got to put you in the ground because you were too volatile. You're too loud. You know.
Yep. There's a whole array of this stuff.
Yep. And they're all
Oh,
over the place. We're almost scared of everything nowadays, just the way things
yep.
are operating. I'm sorry for taking over the show. Go ahead, Darren.
No, it's fine. We were actually, I was going to say, we're going to need to get you to come back on because we are out of time right now. And I'm going to ask these guys, we do one last word here and I'll see if you got any questions for you. But start with you, Charles. Last words, one last question, anything like that?
Oh, I just think that we've got to be aware of creeping socialism. It's my mantra. We've got to be aware that welfare is sucking the life out of us, and obviously, I agree with a lot of what the professor's saying here, maybe everything. And it's interesting that awareness is growing, and I'm glad that awareness is growing.
All right. Perfect. Herbert, last words, buddy. Or wait, Melissa, sorry. We'll get Herbert first. Herbert.
Okay, last words is parents, do everything you can to not become a target of CPR. Always remember,
Yeah.
when they knock at your
CPS.
door, CPS, I'm sorry, when they come, what,
Do
CPS,
start if you need to.
when they come knocking at your door, make sure they have a warrant to come in. Don't just let them in.
All right. You got that one. Professor, you got last words?
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, letting me on your show. I
No, we're gonna
truly
continue. We're
appreciate.
gonna get you back.
Oh yeah,
We
most
definitely
definitely,
get
most
you
definitely. I know.
back.
I'm just, yeah, it's just nice to have somebody to like, Phil. You know what? Come on over here. Let's talk. Let's talk about something. And so
Yeah,
I just appreciate that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Melissa,
Yeah.
last words.
Never quit fighting for your children because if you quit, who the hell else is going to defend them against all the scary people?
Yep, that's right. All right. And then it's up to me. So go ahead and clear us out there, Miss Melissa. All right, guys. So I know that seemed like an out of the box thing, and that was it. But we need to start looking out of the box, like the professor's telling us. He's got a lot of good information, a lot of real information. Get a hold of me at abolishcps.com, at gmail.com. We will get you his information, and you guys need to start playing around with this. We're going to be back for another episode. But this stuff is real that he's talking about, and he wants to be the forerunner to take this down in this way. So please get in touch with me so he can get you in touch with the professor. I am the CPS Punisher. I'm out of here. Have a good night, guys.